My name is Nostos from the Radio Workshop. Here at the SNF Nostos pop-up radio, we are bringing you pieces of the conference through interviews with some of the speakers, sharing their work and impact on mental health, on the impact mental health has on the world. Of course, I am not alone. I'm not alone. I hope everybody heard me. Release, rethink, and refocus on mental health. My name is Stavros, a young reporter from the Radio Workshop. Here at the SNF Nostos radio pop-up, we are bringing you pieces of the conference through interviews with the speakers who are here with us. Right now, I'm going to introduce, or rather, I'll let them introduce themselves. Yes, the radio.
Hello everyone, my name is Hara Kashioti. I'm a student at Pantheon University. I study psychology, and I'm also a producer from the university station Radio Pantheon.
Hello everyone, I'm Maria Bonaru. I also study at Pantheon University journalism, and I'm also a producer at Radio Pantheon.
Yes, as I have mentioned, we have speakers coming right after one and the other to tell us their experience on the term mental health. So, in a short while, we'll have a doctor with us who will, I believe Yara or, they'll introduce the doctor. So, let's go to a very short break coming right up.
Hi, I'm Karabo Masimola all the way from South Africa, and welcome to the SNF Nostos. You're listening to the SNF Nostos pop-up radio by Radio Workshop and Radio Pantheon, where we tell stories that #refocus on mental health.
We're back again, and we have with us Dr. Christian Dizimira, the founder and executive director of the African Center for Research on End-of-Life Care in Rwanda. He's an international member of the Faculty of Palliative Care Center of Excellence. Could you tell us about a moment when you decided to get involved in palliative care?
So, thank you for welcoming me. My dream after the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994 was not to be a palliative care physician. My dream was to be a surgeon, as I can be. And until I met a very young guy, he was really dying in, 24 years old, he was really dying in liver cancer, advanced stage. And he was really in pain. And the sad story, his mom came to me and kneeled before me and asked if I can give just something which can relieve a son. And that time I feared. I feared to prescribe morphine because there is a myth at that time that morphine hasn't death. And you know, I kept on my comfort zone to not prescribe morphine. And the next day, the young guy died. So then I just realized that I failed twice. I failed as a physician because I couldn't prescribe morphine. It was available, but I couldn't prescribe it. And also I failed as a Rwandan because in our culture, when you see elder person kneel before a young person, in our culture you failed. So then I questioned myself, why did I spend so many years in medical school if I couldn't relieve someone who's dying? So what the reason to wear a lab coat, a white lab coat, and a stethoscope if it just witnesses the suffering? So then I realized I need to move from surgery, and I became a palliative care physician.
I'm actually a fourth-year psychology student, and I'm hopefully getting my degree this year. And I'm thinking of doing my master's on health psychology, which can involve palliative care. That all sounds like a very stressful environment to be in. How do you find hope?
What I'm hoping it's about relieving suffering. We have a saying in Rwanda: when you are well, you belong to yourself, but when you are sick, you belong to your family. So it's about patients' autonomy and community responsibility. So the hope is to bring both together. So you have expectation privacy from the patients, and you have also responsibility for the community. It's how you put them together. For me, that's bringing me hope. And hope that the patient will be surrendered by the good person and will receive the best care on that perspective. So, and it works. And from many years, I tried that, and yeah, I'm happy. No, I'm hoping for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you're working with people who are in their last moments, and how did that make you change the perspective you have in life? I mean, how does it help you understand your own mortality?
I think we are. The good news: we all die one day. That is the good news. But yeah, it's not about death. It's about life until the end. It's not about death. It's about life until the end. And that is something really important. Because if you're thinking about death, you'll be stressed. You'll have anxiety. You'll keep depressed. But if you think about life until the end, so every day counts. Every moment counts. And every action counts. And that, for me, is the most important thing. So I don't think about my mortality. I think about my life until the end. So then I enjoying, and part of the lesson I've learned from my patients, two things I've learned. I mean, I learned so many things, but two major things. One, live your dream. Second, don't take yourself seriously. And that is, for me, is the most philosophy I'm using. So yes, I'm thinking about my life until the end. Mortality, it's a very technical terminology. So I prefer life until the end.
It's very inspiring, and I hope people can understand that. And what sort of stories do people in their last moments tell you, maybe?
I think it's a life of regret. People regret many things. So, well, as I said, people regret to not do what they're supposed to do, you know, and as I say, don't take yourself seriously. It's one of the two lessons I've learned, and it's why when I had the opportunity to change from surgery to become a palliative care, I said, this is what I want to do. Of course, that time, surgeons are well paid. Surgeon, you know, in a hierarchy of physician, when you are a surgeon, it's totally different when you are palliative care. But that's, to be a palliative care, it's a passion. It's more than to be paid. It's a passion. And I'm happy what I'm doing. I don't need to be someone else. I don't need to do something else. And I'm just happy with what I'm doing. And the second thing is, as I said, don't take yourself seriously. There are people, they are focused about on social media, about their physics, about what people say about them. They are stressed about the environment. They are stressed about what people look like, everything. But I don't think that is the most important. And most of patients regret they didn't live the life they're supposed to live. They are not alive. They take other lives instead of living their own lives. And that's, it's really important.
Dr. Dizimira, we would like to thank you for being
Thank
here with
you.
us today
Thank
and
you.
conversing with us and offering a new perspective on this matter.
Thank you.
Back to you, Puseletso.
Yes, as I've promised you guys, I told you that we have speakers after speakers. This was Dr. Dizimira's experience. He shared with us his knowledge, and I heard him at some point, he spoke about a dream. So here's one last question that I have for you. Are you living your dream?
100%. No, 200%.
I'm happy to hear that.
200%.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Let us go to a short break and we'll be right back.
Καλώς ήρθατε στο SNF Nostos. Ακούτε το SNF Pop-Up Radio από το Radio Workshop και το Radio Pantheon, όπου λέμε ιστορίες που επανεστιάζουν και κάνουν focus στη ψυχική υγεία.
What did I say? I said speakers after speakers. Welcome back, everybody. And we have yet another speaker who will be sharing with us her insights.
So today with us we have Marjorie Morrison. Is an author and a mental health advocate. She is the president and CEO of Seek Hub, which is a leading platform for mental health educational content. So, what is the aim of Psych Hub?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing, and I'm loving the show and all of the content that you're putting out there. Psych Hub is a mental health education platform. So we educate the whole ecosystem on mental health literacy, giving everybody from providers to employees to just everyday people information that they need. We do it in terms of courses and podcasts and videos, which we could talk about. And then we also have a public connection platform to help people get educated about mental health and then get connected to the right care for them.
Okay, so how do you make time each day for self-care? I mean, it's a lot of work. It must be difficult for you. How do you work it out, have time for you?
Oh, we're talking about me now. How do I have time for self-care? Okay, I'm really bad at that. So you're picking on something that I could talk about being a workaholic.
Okay.
And what it's like putting in 16-hour-long days, day after day. I think I could do better, so I don't want to give off that I have this figured out. But the one thing I do is I work to close my rings on my Apple Watch every day, which is like an extra 700 calories. So I always make sure that if I don't go to the gym, at least I'm walking. Or this morning when I went down to the lobby to get coffee, I walked up the 6 flights of stairs instead of taking the elevator, because I definitely find for me physical health also helps with my mental health. But I have some work to do personally to be able to take more time for self-care. I'm not even going to pretend that I've got that figured out right now.
What book have you recently read that changed the way you view mental health in general?
Oh, that's such a good question. You know, my reading right now is all across the board, from leadership books to... I just kind of reread that book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. I love these books that are really help you stop and think twice about the way that you look at things. Where I think I'm at right now with reading is I've gotten really into these listservs that come in my morning email from all different topics, and then I've been picking on these different articles and then following more of these different authors that are writing more current events in different places. I'm finding so much interest going on in like this whole conference. I've been in mental health my entire career, plus my father was a psychiatrist, so I'd say my whole life, and it's so exciting to see it here, globally happening, and everyone, before nobody talked about mental health, now everyone's talking about it. So for me, I love reading about how it's happening in different countries. I got an opportunity to speak in Dubai a few months ago, and just hearing how UAE and Saudi Arabia and how cultures that are typically very stigmatized around mental health, how now they're embracing it. So right now, doing less book reading and a lot more like just articles and blogs from all different areas that kind of are all around mental health.
You mentioned your father being a psychiatrist. Do you think maybe that could have inspired you to get involved with mental health later?
Yeah, yes, I think so. It's funny because when I went to undergrad and then I went to grad school, I first went to school to be an industrial psychologist because I thought, well, I don't want to be a therapist, but I'll be one for companies. But I didn't like that at all because it was a lot of statistics and math, and I wasn't very good at that. So I went right into graduate school to be a therapist. I oftentimes joke that when I went to university, all my friends joined sororities. I joined the crisis hotline, and that was my community and my group of people. And so I think I've always loved the connection with people, like being able to have deeper conversations. And so I think for me, that's what really, yes, having a father who is in this space, but somehow for me, it's like once you kind of get a taste of what that feels like, I always think it's the best gift that someone can give you is to share their kind of be vulnerable with you and share some of their kind of inner thoughts. And so so many times, I love that. I love those deeper, intimate connections. So for me, that's what's really driven me.
Okay, and just one last question about the conference. Have you had any exciting, surprising moments that you want to talk about maybe and tell us, please?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. You know what, being in mental health education, I love hearing almost every one of these talks. People are talking about prevention and training. And, we've been talking about this for quite some time. But when you're not, people focus on, intervention and access and quality, all of these things. But we're really on how do we train people earlier, right? How do we go earlier in the whole cycle so that people don't escalate to points of great need? And I'm finding that theme over and over and over again. And I think for us at Psych Hub, we care about education by meeting learners where they're at, right? So we have these courses that we produce with actors and things like that to train people, including we train mental health practitioners, like how to do evidence-based practice, because we don't treat an eating disorder the same as we would anxiety or trauma, but we don't really learn that in school. So we spend a lot of time training on that, but we also have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos. We partner with YouTube, so we have all these free resources. So if anyone wants to go to the Psych Hub YouTube channel, hundreds of videos on every topic imaginable of mental health, podcasts and things like that. So I'd say my favorite part of this conference is seeing the global focus, and then also just seeing this constant theme around education, training, prevention, early intervention. I think it's that expression, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think that's what that expression is, and I feel like it's been thematic here, so it's been great.
Great, thank you very much. Your talk has been very insightful. And again, thank you for being here and talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Right now, we are going for a very short break again. One last short break.
Hi guys, my name is Mbali Matlow and I am a young reporter at Akhanang FM radio station. Mental health problems don't define who you are. They are what you experience. You walk in the rain, you feel the rain, but you are not the rain. And you are listening to Radio Workshop, #SAF Conference 2023.
So we have another guest. Please welcome Amy Kennedy, who has been working with young people for many, many years. She worked as a public school teacher for over 10 years, so it's fair to see that she truly understands the psyche of young people. Along with Mr. Kennedy, they founded the Kennedy Forum in 2013. So, you just finished your speech regarding specific fields of young people's mental health. Can you tell us about how you decided to work with young people and when?
You know, I went to university and thought I would not go into education because both my parents are educators. So I, of course, figured I wanted to be something completely different than whatever they were studying, right? We all want to be our own person. And when I went to college, I took one class in child psychology. And it felt like natural. And I think that's because I grew up in a household of educators where there was such a focus on young people. And because it came naturally, I ended up taking another course and another course, right? We gravitate towards what we're good at and ended up getting my degree in primary education and teaching a certificate for K to 8. And I went into the public school teaching middle school. And I did that for about 14 years. I taught history there. And through my time, I did not have training on mental health, but it was very clear to see which kids were having a hard time in my classroom, right? They didn't turn in their homework. They felt sick all the time. Can I go to the nurse? They had their hood up and they were slouched down in their seats, disinterested. And you know, some of that was because maybe I was a little boring, but most of it, I think there was something else going on because it's really hard to focus on learning when you're having a mental health crisis or just not able to concentrate. And so seeing that and then being able to put a name to it. Once I met my husband and he was so open with his own mental health struggles, I saw that and I was able to shift what my thinking was about the students in my classroom and compare that to the struggles that he had faced. And it opened my eyes to the changes that needed to happen. And when you're teaching in your own classroom, you feel like I can impact, you know, maybe 30 students this year or 100 students this year. How can I take that and have a bigger impact? And yes, year after year, maybe 100, 200, but I want to make sure that all students are getting the support they need. And I realized that doing that would happen through policy change, not necessarily just in my own classroom.
Okay. What mental health campaigns would you say that you're passionate about?
I think it's really important that we bring more supports into the schools. And so for me, that would be everything from screening young people early. In our school system, they check your eyes, see if you need glasses, and they check your hearing to make sure you can hear the lesson, but they don't do a check for your brain. And if we want students to really be able to learn, then we need to be doing that screening as well. And so everything from screenings to how can we best teach you life skills so that you're able to not have ruminating thoughts, intrusive thoughts throughout the day, so that you can get along with and have good relationships, and building all of those skills like flexibility, and being able to manage our emotions. Those are the things that are going to help us throughout our lives, and realizing that teaching just the dates of an event in history, which is, you know, what my focus was, is not going to be the thing that helps you be successful no matter what you pursue. So having some of those life skills would be important, but knowing that that may not be enough for all students. So students may need to have some more support during difficult times. Maybe parents are going through a divorce, or maybe there's something happening in that young person's life and they need short-term intervention. Or maybe this is something that they're going through for a long period of time and we have to connect them with the health system. So having all of those in place and knowing how to connect young people from the school environment to the healthcare system, because it's really complicated and people don't know where to go to get that help, would be a big focus of mine. And so through the work we're doing at Kennedy Forum, we're focused on the policies, the laws that are going to make that more possible, because there's so many barriers to getting that help. And lawmakers need to understand what are the current challenges when it comes to the finances and funding available, but also electronic health records, or the training for educators, the number of providers, and making sure that we don't have staff shortages. All of that can be impacted by policy.
Okay, so as a professional, but also as a parent yourself, what advice can you give to parents who have children living with mental health conditions?
There is no great advice to make this less of a difficult time in their lives. The only thing they can do is make sure that they are also getting the support that they need, because it's very difficult to provide the strength and the help and support for that young person when you're also stressed. Some of what we're seeing when young people are getting help, parents' depression and anxiety also becomes less significant, even if they're not receiving the treatment themselves. But just by their child getting the help they need, it helps the adult. And likewise, if you want to help the child, the adult needs to be able to feel healthy and well. And, you've all heard many times, you're only as happy as your saddest child, right? And so knowing that that's the truth and that people are going to struggle, who can you bring into your circle to be some of that added support? I remember going through a difficult time myself, and I just could not be that light for my oldest child. And so I made sure that my best friend Lynn was there every day, and we would go to her house for dinner. And even though maybe I didn't have the smile that I needed to, and I wasn't able to be as engaging or loving as I wanted to, I had the warmth of my best friends, and they did that for me for that period of time. And it was just, maybe 3 months. There was a cycle where I just needed someone else to do that, and knowing when to reach out for that and say, I need that extended family to, whether it's a friend or a parent, and say, you're going to be that light person in my life.
So I guess a support system is of great importance then.
Huge. And it doesn't have to be family. If it can be, that's great. If it needs to be a neighbor, if it needs to be someone else in your life, we can take that support from lots of different places. One person, like your spouse, cannot be all things, right? So we have to get that support from a lot of different people that might be able to add it.
A chosen family, perhaps.
Yeah.
So you think it's very important for people to communicate with each other their mental health issues, or even their well-being, like everything that has to do with mental health?
It's a funny habit that we have of when someone asks us how we're doing, we all say, great, how are you? Oh, I'm doing well, how are you? We always give that same response, and we haven't retrained ourselves to be honest and to be vulnerable, myself included. And of course, we say, just put the happy face on and give the best answer, but there is a time to be more vulnerable, and it teaches others to be more vulnerable. And in doing that, then people feel more open to share that with you as well.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you taking this time of the day to talk with us, and it was very, very interesting.
Oh, thank you for having me.
SNF Pop-Up Radio with the Radio Workshop and Radio Pantheon.
Okay, we are back at the SNF Nostos pop-up radio. Okay, those were insightful conversations, really, like what we just heard here. You know, can you believe that this is my third day knowing what palliative care is? I had no idea. Thank you so much, Yara, for, sharing it.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to ask both of you guys, like, what did you take from the speakers that we just had right now?
I feel like we did learn a lot, and I especially appreciated the moments when the people we interviewed took the time to share personal experiences. We shouldn't take that for granted because it's a vulnerable experience to do that.
I think I really liked the way they were all very passionate about what they were talking about, and I think it helped me understand better their purpose and the information they gave us. So I think it was very, very, very interesting.
It really was very interesting. One thing that I took, living to the end. He said that we're gonna die. All of us are going to die, but you need to live to the end. So that's what I took from the doctor. And also, Amy said that they have programs whereby the children in the schools are screened and everything. I wish we had that in my village, because honestly, in my village, if you have a mental health condition, sometimes they just say that no, it's that time of growing. It's adolescence, and it's not that serious. You have demons, such things. It's not taken seriously, and I wish that we could just change that. We could see what the world is doing, and get in line with combating stigma around mental health.
The stigma is still unfortunately very strong, because what you just described about your village is probably it's very, very similar to the experience I've had in my village. I would see young children and then teens with mental health issues, and they would get treated like they were crazy, in quotation marks.
Yeah, I think it's a whole, we need to leave behind the stigma that there is around mental health, and maybe approach each other in a better way, to understand each other and communicate and live our life.
I'm happy to hear that. So it's the final day. It's the final day of the conference, right? So I wanted to ask a question, but I believe I'll ask it at the end of our session. Right now, we'll be joined by Yiming Bai. She's a PhD student in population health at the University of Hong Kong, and she is also a member of the Youth Advisory Council.
SNF Pop-Up Radio.
Now let us imagine that you're in the middle of your disc jockey program.
Hey, listen up, everybody.
It's gonna be so awesome. Yeah.
With the Radio Workshop and Radio Pantheon.
Right, we are back. Before the small break, I told you guys we have a speaker with us today. So, Yiming, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Yiming. I'm currently a student in Hong Kong University to study in population health, and I'm so interested in mental health. So I'm being here and to attend this very wonderful conference here.
Would like to know about your experience, of course. So tell us about how your mental health was impacted during by COVID-19.
Yeah, actually, because I was studying and living in Hong Kong, so we really have a severe impact from the COVID, the whole city lockdown, and we cannot have like that much contact with the outside, the fresh air as we have before. So actually, I think contacting the nature, the outside environment, is very important to our mental health. So we don't have when you don't have the connection with the nature, it will be a huge attack for your mental health. So that is one point that I felt it's really a disaster for everyone in that city during the COVID. And the second thing is when you only can have those online attachment to others, you can have your Zoom class, you have your online video chatting with your friends and your families. I think that will make you lost a lot of feelings about the real human being. So this will make you lost a lot of emotional attachments. So it's also, I think, a very bad thing for your mental health.
During quarantine, how did the lack of human interaction affect you, and what did you miss the most from it?
Yes, I think first of all, when you cannot see other people's face, you cannot touch each other, you cannot give a hug to your friends and your families, you feel like you are so isolated. So that kind of negative emotion cannot be really leased out by yourself. So I think contact with other people, maybe a simple hug, is very, very helpful when you feel depressed or you have some anxiety inside. So during the COVID, I cannot really have this physical attachment with people. I feel it's make me not feel really good.
Mm-hmm. So I have two friends from Hangzhou area in China, and I talked with them during COVID of how they took care of themselves. They told me it was pretty difficult. How did you manage that? How did you make sure you took care of yourself during that time?
Yeah, actually, it's really a challenge for me because at that time I was living by myself. So you have to feed yourself with sufficient food, and also you have to entertain yourself. And at the same time, as a student, you have to balance your work and your spare time. So I think for mental health play a really important role when you have to balancing yourself under a really challenging environment. So when you in a very good mood, very stable emotions, you can handle everything very well. You can have a really good balance between your pressure and your entertaining emotions. But at that time, actually, I cannot handle it very well because, as you know, I lost every contact from the outside, so I feel really depressed, and I just devote myself into my work, my study. But very soon, I found out I cannot really work as efficient as I think, because actually, when I was really down, I just it looks like I was working all the time, but it cannot be really efficient work. You cannot produce as much inspiring result as you can before. So when you stay in a really healthy status of mental health, I think is kind of encouraging thing for your study and your work.
I have one more question. What was it like reuniting with your friends and your loved ones after COVID, after not, having this contact with them for so long?
Yeah, I think the first thing when we met each other, of course, a big hug, and of course we go get some food. We can really have some food offline, like really like to see each other. We can have some chat, and to really like show our caring and show our like how much I miss you. So I think that's the first thing and the most impressive thing of me.
I love how hearing this, I can relate to it. We're two different people with different experience, but I think this is the human experience, like missing your friends, wanting to do things with them. That sounds very much like my first reunion with my friends after COVID.
Yeah, even doing nothing is still like really therapeutic for me. Yeah.
COVID-19 had an impact on a whole lot of people's mental well-being. Thank you for being here with us and sharing your experience. It's truly an honor. Right now, we have to leave, everybody. We have to leave the pop-up radio. But remember that at 3:20, at 20 minutes past 3, Dr. Christian Desimira is presenting a talk called Naked But Not Ashamed. Ubuntu as the resilience of well-being of life until the end. And in the Greek National Opera lobby, you can see designs for hospitals that offer a groundbreaking healing environment for healthcare staff, patients, and their families. You can check out the architectural models of the hospitals designed by the Renzo Piano Building Workshop and explanatory videos on display. That's in the Greek Opera lobby. Also, one last message. If you haven't had your lunch, you can head to the Agora Bistro and Canal Cafe at the SNF CC and make sure that you have your SNF Nostos conference badge in handy. That's very important. Great people, the app. Engage on the SNF app. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the speakers that we had here. It was truly amazing having you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Καλώς ήρθατε στο SNF Nostos. Ακούτε το SNF Pop-Up Radio από το Radio Workshop και το Radio Pantheon, όπου λέμε ιστορίες που επανεστιάζουν και κάνουν focus στην ψυχική υγεία.